Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Kerbal Space Program, and this is our Mission to Jool series here. And well, if you missed last time's episode, we had a nice little rendezvous where we attached these two craft together, the lander and the tug, and we actually made our encounter with the Jool system. Just slinging ourselves out of the Kerbal system over here to the Jool system. And so in this episode, we're going to tweak our orbits a little bit to get this encounter a little nicer. And we're going to try to make our encounter with Lathe. So let's just have a little look at the Jool system. It's like a mini solar system in its own right. You have Jool, the main gas giant here. And man, it looks pretty with those cloud textures on it. And it's got its own series of satellites and moons. So the first one in is Lathe. And this is the only other planet besides Duna in this entire system that has an atmosphere. And it's mainly a total water planet, so it's kind of difficult picking a spot to land. You have to kind of make sure you really pick something that has land on it. So that's Lathe. We can actually see stats about Lathe. It's funny little information bits, but the atmosphere height is 50 kilometers, and you can see all other kinds of good stuff, like the escape velocity requires 2,800 meters per second, how fast it rotates, and all that good stuff. And there's a whole bunch of other little moons. The rest of them are just kind of like dead rocky worlds, like Val here. Val's got pretty low gravity. The next one out, Tylo's got pretty high gravity. Tylo is actually one of the hardest places to land on in the entire game, just because there's no atmosphere present and there's a good deal of gravity. 0.8 Gs, that's pretty high for a moon. You kind of need like a pretty strong engine to get down there. And we have Bop, which is this little basically little ball of dust right here on a strange inclined orbit. This is a relatively difficult place to land on because it's so rocky and the gravity's 0.06. It's I think the second lightest object in the entire system. And then we've got Pole, another little pollen dust mote here. So there you have it. There's the Jool system, but like I said, we're aiming for Lathe. That's where we're gonna set our craft down, our little lander craft. Nice little caldera crater right in here. So let's go back to our thing here. Oop. No. Well, there's a flag that we had on the moon. For some reason it took us over to there. We want Jool Explorer. Come on, there we go. This game is so finicky sometimes. Alright, here we are. That looks pretty. So let's just start our time warp away from our home planet. We'll watch it go zooming away. Right past the moon. Plenty of power. Yeah, we've got plenty of photovoltaics and a nice big fat battery bank. Sorry if you hear my Steam. Somebody's messaging me, it sounds like. And there we go. Floating away. So as soon as we break out of our gravity loop here, the gravity well of Kerbal, we'll start thinking about different types of corrections that we can make to meet up with Jool a little bit better. Alright. So it looks like Jool is... I don't know if we messed up our burn getting off the planet or whatnot, but we are in not quite the right alignment here. Let's set it as the target, and our ascending node, yes, it's 1.4, so let's just try. We can start trying to mess with the ascending node and seeing if that gets us a better encounter. It It does, it looks like. Yeah, it goes down from... Wow, is that a billion? Yeah, it goes from a 1.4 billion periaps to a 250 million one. So that's way better. 105 million. I think we'll go with that burn. It's only 182 meters per second, but it fixes stuff a little bit. Now I don't want it to go too crazy here. Actually, that's probably what we want right there. Wow, yeah, that's exactly what we want. Okay, so we're gonna do that one. We'll set ourselves up here. So let's just do a little RCS thrust this way. So we're just pointing south, relative to the sun. Because in space, if you're not relative to one thing or another, there really is no north or south or whatnot. There's no nothing. You know, this looks like down, but this could be down. You know, who knows? It's always in space. You always have to say relative to something else. Alright, so we're just going to time warp that. Maneuver node's in 19 days, so let's just go ahead and zoom all the way up. Kerbin is now receding away from us, or we are receding away from Kerbin. See, our orbital velocity is 10,000 meters per second. That is super fast. And again, that's relative to the sun. Sun's already getting a little bit smaller. We're almost out to Duna's orbit here. Alright. Now, when you're like at this grand scale, these little minutes don't really matter a whole lot. It doesn't really, like, it doesn't affect it if you're right on it or not. Let's start the burn. It's going to take about a minute. And we're just basically cranking this orbit lower. Just pushing ourselves downwards. And it's already helping our periapsis. Man, I hope we have enough fuel. That's the one thing I'm kind of worried about, is fuel. Are we going to have enough fuel to get there and then get back home again? I am not so sure. We might end up having these guys stranded out there. So I guess we'll see. Bringing that periapsis down. Another 40 meters per second to go. And we'll cut it off right about there. So let's see what we have. We've essentially lowered the orbit a bit. And our periapsis now is 11 million, which should be good. If it's too close to Jool, we can always correct other things, but actually let's see. If I keep burning in that direction, it gets actually worse. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Out to 10. See, I don't want this to bend too much downwards like that. So, you know, I think we'll just leave it at that for now. Let's see, what else could we try? Let's see what happens if we point directly at the target. Let's see if that actually does anything. It's always good to experiment with RCS, just to make sure. Let's see. Okay, so pulsing right at the target brings us farther away. But it does fix that escape thing, which I think that's what we want. I don't want it to go flying too far down. We can always save it and come back if I think that's the wrong thing to do. Which I know some of you purists out there might not agree with that, but sometimes you just gotta try stuff, right? I'm not perfect at this game. Alright, so we'll zoom on forward. We are pointing right at Jool. Jool is over there somewhere in this vicinity. Just very, very far away. So you notice our orbital velocity is coming down a lot. Kind of have to match Jool's a little bit. And that's fine, because the further we get away from the sun, the slower we're going to get. Look at how far the sun is now. We're now approaching Dres's orbit. In fact, we're pretty darn close to Dres, actually. Dres is, like, kind of over here somewhere. Right now we're at Dres's orbit. Dres is like a little tiny planetoid. So we're 109. Let's see. What happens now if I burn right towards the planet there? We get further away. Okay. What if we do... What if we point... Let's see... So if we point away from the target, it'll bring us closer to it. Whoa. Not sure what that did. Here we are. You know, we'll just leave it like that. Because as we get closer, we can really fine-tune it. I better just turn the RCS off. We can really fine-tune it. And we can also try to get our lathe encounter, you know, all in one shot. Which can be a little tricky sometimes. But I found with the Jool system, it's hard to miss getting the other moons involved. Because there's so many of them, all you have to do is like usually tweak something a little bit and you'll get an encounter with something. Man, so even at 100,000 times, it's taking a very long time to get out there. Just because our speed is so, you know, it's slowing down so much. Yeah, look at this. Crawling. We are crawling. So we actually... Yeah, we're a little bit ahead of Jool. But it's starting to come up on us now because our speed now is slower by about 1,000 meters per second. So Jool's going to start racing up on us. Subjectively racing up on us. Technically we're slowing down and Jool's remaining the same speed. So again, relativity. It's all about relativity. So we'll see what happens here with this encounter. Here comes Jool now. You can really see it at this angle. It's just slowly gaining on us. And we are at maximum warp too. These poor Kerbals, they're probably going crazy, cooped up in there. Just keep slowing down. Jool just keeps staying the same. It looks like Jool is racing up on us. Now you can really start to see it. Jool is just flying at us now. We are standing still. Here we are at the periapsis. Alright, so we are now coming up on our encounter. So I will be careful now. We have some kind of weird thing happening with it, which I'm a little worried about, but we'll see. Alright. Okay, so I figured something like that would happen. We have managed to get on the wrong side of rotations of everything. We need to adjust this so that we are actually going the other way. Ooh. Okay, here we are. So that's one thing. Can also pull this straight down like that. And it's hard to see what's going on because it's so far away, but that's essentially what we're doing. Now I should set lathe as the new target while I'm here. Oh, this is actually pretty good. We're like right there. In fact, if we bring this periapsis in just a little bit, we might actually get some kind of an encounter with it. I saw something. There's a lathe periapsis right there. Okay. So we're a little low. Let's see if we can bring it up just a touch. 2.8. Or was it better this way? 2.3. So we'll kind of leave it like that. It is an encounter, so it will work. And it only costs 97 meters per second. There's Jool right there. Just a little tiny dot. There's our maneuver node, and it's in 3 hours. This does matter a little more, so be a little more careful with your timings on this one. Oh, okay. Just... we went over a little bit, but that's alright. We can sort of manually gauge it. So we are coming in. If we left it right here, we'd crash right into Jool and everyone would die. So we're not going to leave it right there. So all we're doing is just making it so we are now going with the orbits, counterclockwise. Okay. Use my RCS whenever possible. Just to get that periapsis right down. Right about there. And it's still a little low, but we can fix that at the descending node. In fact, let's see what we can do with this. Oops, other way. Oh, so we kind of we kind of have it in a strange sort of. Don't really like that too much. See if I can just tweak this a little bit. Okay, that's a little, believe it or not, that's a little better. Come on, right about that is what we want right there. So we just go straight across the equator. That is a fairly hefty burn. I don't like all these little burns we have to make. I think they're necessary. I'm gonna quick save it. I don't know, guys. Fuel is a bit of a concern to me right now. Will we have enough? Not sure about that. This burn is in 14 days, so we can just zoom on up. We'll watch the Jool system rotate around, and we'll come up on the Jool system. I'd like to focus on my craft, please. But it's not letting me, because this game is weird. Come on. Thank you! This game is very quirky. I don't want to zoom total. Maybe for just a second. Yeah. As we get closer, it's going to get faster and faster. You can start to see the moons appearing now. Little tiny flickering dots circling around. The awesome machinery of nature. Look at that. That's beautiful. Just like a clock, just swirling around, never changing. Beautiful thing right there. Man, that looks pretty. There's our little blue dot we're going for. The other pale blue dot. It's not our pale blue dot, but it's one of the pale blue dots. So our node's coming up in 4 hours. Wow, there's Jool right there. Want to be very careful with your maneuver node timings right at this point, 'cause now it's really critical. Let's just stop to have a little look. Have a little look inside. Let's see. So we're going to want to tilt the spaceship a little bit. There's the wow. There's the sun all the way over there. Tiny little dot. Where are you, Jool? Ah, there it is. Look at that. That's something. Can you imagine actually being there and seeing that? That would be amazing. Let's see. If we keep moving over a little bit, we'll see Lathe. There's Lathe. There's our target. Beautiful. Beautiful. Alright, enough goofing around. Let's see. We want to get to our maneuver node again because we twisted around. So we'll do it at about 45 seconds. Do it right about now. Making our burn. Might kick in the RCS just to help a little bit. Because again, I'm worried about that fuel. Not sure if it makes it. It cuts about 10 seconds off the burn. Just raising that periapsis upwards. Literally just burning north, pulling it upwards so that we come more across the equator here rather than kind of down and up, slingshotting us back up and around. Now, it looks like when we finish this burn, we won't have a periapsis. It'll be buried within the planet, so we'll have to fix that for sure. Because we're going to want to do an air brake for sure, but not crash right into the planet. Layth's atmosphere is pretty, you know, it's thinner than Kerbin's, but it's definitely relevant, and it'll definitely pull you in if not careful. Here we are, it's bending back. So I'm just going to cut this node and get it so that I can see it. Go straight across, right there. Perfect. Alright, and the last thing we should do is set ourselves up so we have a periapsis. Because it looks like... yeah, at this moment, there is no periapsis, so let's just... well, this is interesting. It's not really showing us. It's like we're just gonna... let's see... we'll go with, you know, for now. Maybe just something like that. Not sure if that's even really gonna affect anything, but we'll see. Just to pull it away from the planet a little bit, and it's... I don't know why it's so wavy like that. Probably because the math doesn't quite know what's going to happen yet. The game's not really sure if that's the right thing. But that encounter's pretty close. Let's just do an F5, and let's just zoom up on it, see what we got. Wow, it's going to be close. It's going to be tight. It's showing we're pretty... whoa! Oh my. So we want to get away from that. Oh, that's way too much. Okay, so that's one of those cases where... let's go ahead and reload that. We definitely don't want that to happen. So while we're over here, we're just going to pull... okay, here we are. Periapsis. That's what I wanted to see. It's still a lot of fuel. Actually, no, it'll be alright. I forget what the perfect periapsis is for an air brake. We'll try like 30, 27-ish. We'll try that. So I had before I hadn't done enough. Spending a little more delta V. Just trying to get away from Lathe because we were too close to it. We were going to crash right into it, and it was going to take a lot of fuel to correct it, which I didn't want. Okay. 40. Alright. That's probably too high. Let's just RCS back a little bit. So we'll try 30. We'll try right about there. But it looks like we've gone just about over time. So in the next episode, we'll do a little air braking around Lathe, and we'll see if we can get this just right. Thanks for watching.